too young to remember everything and understood what was happening. But it started something like this. I knew everything was going to change. My brother stayed with my father, and me and my sister went with my mother. After the divorce, I didn't saw my brother that much. I remember going out with my friends and their families and wondering what it was like to have a family, a happy and united family. Even though my mom always made us feel loved, she had all of her free time for us, and she was always there. During high school, I wasn't really affected about the whole thing because I learned how to live with that. And as I told you, my mom was always there, making me feel loved. My teenage years were the best years ever. I had friends, I had a boyfriend, I went to parties, I danced. I was so happy. Until I was 21 years old. I remember that day like it was yesterday. My siblings and I were together when my mom gave us the news. She said, I have cancer. I have no words to describe to you how I felt. We were all together when it happened. It affected everyone, but I was affected the most. After this, my mom left the house for my siblings and I, but it felt such a great loneliness. I didn't want it to be there. On mornings, I went really early to go to work, and then I came back until late night. Thanks to that, I went into many excesses. I didn't value myself, and it was common that I drowned myself in alcohol. As I felt so alone, I started begging for attention and looking for love everywhere. It was never a fairy tale love. It was more of a selfish love. One time in my house, there was a friend that suggested me to try a new drug called Molly or ecstasy. And there was no one to tell me not to do it. I reached a point in my life where I had no motivation, nothing that I wanted. At that time, I started dating someone, but it wasn't a healthy relationship. I remember perfect that time that I woke up with a lot of nausea and feeling dizzy. And although I knew what was happening, I didn't want to admit it because I thought that if I didn't, then it wasn't real. So I took the test. I was pregnant. When I told him, he said that we had two options. One was to get married and have the kid, and the other one, the abortion. To be completely honest with you, I didn't thought the marriage was an option. When we arrived to the clinic, I talked to the doctor and he told me to be calm about it because there wasn't any life yet. There were only some cells. And after getting the abortion, when I woke up, I couldn't do another thing but cry. Later, I broke up with him. I started doing something new, something better. I stopped making bad decisions in my life. And 7 months later, I have a job and everything was going well. One day, I was going to the movies with a friend. And when I was getting in the car, I realized there was someone. I looked back, and when I did, I noticed he opened his coat and had a gun. But it was too late. When I did, the guy shot, and I lost balance. And I couldn't move my legs, so I shouted for help. They took me to a hospital. The doctor started touching my feet and my legs, but I couldn't feel them. When he saw me, he said that they had to make me a surgery to remove the bullet from my neck. It was then when my friend told me that the guy who shot me There the police found him and shot him 9 times. And he was still alive. But the worst news was when they told me, Mariana, you won't be able to walk again. They told me I had to stay in a wheelchair for the rest of my life and that I would depend on someone else to do everything. After this, everything really changed. I remember the first time I was put in a wheelchair. I couldn't stop crying. It was horrible and it was so real. Because that was actually happening to me. For real. After that, I went in a real deep depression. Because I had to start from zero and I needed to learn to walk again. Time passed by and I started accepting my situation. I also hated the wheelchair. When people saw me, they always pointed at me. It was like so pity and they didn't even want to get close to me. There was when I realized I had 2 options. One was to accept my situation and be happy with it, and the other one was to continue in my depression and be alone forever. Then I learned a lot of things that I thought I will never do again. I learned again to swim, to drive, to live the present, to live my life, to have willpower again. That was really important. That was when I started to move on and get out more often. I even went to a spiritual retreat. And there I realized that I had made a huge mistake of my life. And was the abortion. I realized I had been lying to myself. And that it was not just a bunch of cells. It was my son. And I felt so much guilt and hurt in my heart. I had this pain for so many times. I went to Mass and the priest gave me a prayer for all the parents who had made an abortion. When I closed my eyes and said it, I heard the voice of my child telling me, Mom, don't cry. I already forgave you. After this, I decided to tell the truth, to open my heart because I wanted to help others and release myself. I understood that no one's perfect, that we all make mistakes, and that the only way to heal ourselves is through love and forgiveness.